Hey WoTV fans, this is Nashtaters, your global original influencer. And today, welcome you back to another episode of WoTV. Now, Yuna is upon us tomorrow, and on this eve, I really want to be a responsible influencer for WoTV and do everything as possible in my power to talk about this specific unit. Before I begin this video, I want to make sure that there are a lot of things I potentially missed in Monday news video, because when they updated the new content in this game, there's most likely some things I left out. I think the reason I did that on purpose is because I really didn't feel like I need to talk about every single thing that happened, and most likely throughout this week and upcoming months, I will talk about those things in separate videos. So, Yuna. As a responsible influencer for WoTV, I realized I really need to talk about her. And for those of you who wants to see if she is the type of Yuna that you want on your roster, you came to the right place. Now, before I begin talking about the good and the bad on this unit, I think I need to go ahead and start the video with an analogy. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of influence in media. Whether it be a show on TV or a movie, they always did what they did best at that time, and that is to create stereotypes and perpetuate those stereotypes into the minds of the teenagers. Well, I'm going to use that analogy here regarding the Yuna. See, I was the type of kid that liked to stay home and play with his Transformers or G.I. Joe, watch Saturday morning cartoons, and I realized that I wasn't going to be built like someone if we were to move fast forward to the future, like say LeBron James, or perhaps any of those other superstars in different sports. In this case, whatever sports you as an individual can relate to. So I realized I'm much better served, most likely, just staying home and enjoy the quote-unquote nerdy things. And so when you fall into those categories, you tend to kind of dream about women, right? I had crushes on, of course, the most popular girl in school, perhaps the cheerleader, perhaps the prom queen, or perhaps they were all one person. It didn't really make any difference looking back now that I'm in my 40s, because when you were a teenager, your world around you, and anything that happened throughout your day, that could be the end of your world. And Yuna in much ways is like that. She is the popular girl. She is most likely the prom queen. And in WoTV, she's essentially going to be labeled as the best healer in months to come. And I think the reason I'm using that analogy is I want people to understand girls come and go, and most likely she's going to be replaced in the future, because Hiroki indicated himself that he wants this game to be a decade project. And of course, he also stated that most likely we're going to get tons of collaborations in the future. Chances of us getting Final Fantasy 7 or 6 or 12 or anything related to potentially RPGs most likely could see an appearance. And what that means is the heroine in those specific things are going to be most likely the it girl at that time. You see, when this game came out roughly almost one year ago, we had Ayaka, what I call a legacy unit. She was essentially the best healer / support unit for everyone to have. Her instant limit break heal was literally the go-to skill, thus making PvE and PvP content somewhat, well, not as challenging seemingly if she's on your team. Fast forward a little bit. Rosa was going to be dubbed as the best healer in the game. Unfortunately on Global, that was quickly debunked because they injected Halloween Little Leela right before the release of Rosa. And ironically enough, Rosa, who could have been the queen, was short-lived, and Halloween Leela took that role as the prom queen. Well, here we are, almost at the 1-year anniversary. Yuna most likely is going to be the prom queen. And on the eve, before you decide that you're going to summon for her, I think it's a good idea for me to kind of give you my opinion on her. I think the most important thing to think about is the fact that if we use that analogy as the fact that she's just potentially another crush or another sort of prom queen type of person, you have to understand this happens quite a bit. She may take that role as perhaps the best healer for a few months. Most likely she'll be replaced later on. Some people like to call it the flavor of the week, the flavor of the month, or what have you. Now bear in mind, if you're a Kraken or a heavy spender, probably this video will be just that, very entertaining for you. But for a lot of players in this game, maybe roughly 95% of the player base, making a decision tomorrow could make or break your account. And I think on that topic of making or breaking, is she truly one of those units that can make or break your account? Now, I've always said, if you have special attachments to characters in the game, go for it, because it doesn't hurt you in any way, because you must do what you must do what you. Did that make any sense? Probably not. It sounded like gibberish. But ultimately what it means is you do you, right? You do what makes you happy. For me, that was the Final Fantasy Tactics units. Orlandu, Ramza, Agrius. I love those characters. So I have absolutely no regrets. Even though some of them have fallen off, literally off the cliff in terms of power level or influence for my account. But I never regret it, because every time I log in and I put them on my team and I'm taking them out for a spin, I'm having a good time. And I think for roughly maybe 20% of the player base, that's what's going to be. Yuna will serve that purpose, the nostalgia factor, if you will. But for the rest of 80% of us, we have to kind of sort of consider, is she going to be a unit that's going to be very impactful on our account? The way I look at it is this. Of course, most likely she's going to take on the role of being the best healer in the game. But best healer in the game doesn't equate to perhaps the best tank or the best damage dealer, because most likely you could actually conquer PvE or PvP content with perhaps not the best healer. In this case, Hayaka is going to get the EX25 treatment very soon, as will Halloween Little Leela, and of course Rosa. Those girls might actually take over the role as best healer later on. And you never know, maybe the heroine from Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VI, or maybe even Chrono Trigger, right? Fingers crossed. They might take over the role as the best healer. But all in all, in a nutshell, it doesn't really make any difference, because I strongly believe play the game that you want to play. Do what you want to do, right? And on that note, let's think another thing that may be very impactful when you're thinking about getting Yuna. Yesterday, I mentioned the fact that I want to really do a planning video. And that's essentially what this video is going to be. You see, we're going to be getting roughly, by my calculations, over 20,000 Visiors over the course of the next 10 days. The thing is, this collaboration is going to last 6 weeks. So most likely we're going to be getting more and more and more and more free stuff over the course of a month, because as you guys know, the 1-year anniversary celebration is not going to end in just a week. So with all that said, you have to prepare for yourself. One of the biggest obstacles I feel like Yuna has is the fact that she essentially most likely need the Bahamut card. And let's take a look at the Bahamut card. One thing I noticed about the Bahamut card is the fact that, well, it is geared towards light units. So what does that mean? It means that if you have the Bahamut card slapped on to units that are not light type, it's essentially a useless card. It's so useless that you're only going to be getting the stats. You're not even going to be able to use the party ability or the limited bestow effect. So there are only currently going to be 2 very powerful units that you're going to slap this bad boy on. And that's most likely going to be Yuna if you get her or want her, and Sakura. Well, obviously people could say, well, you can actually use it on Grace. By the way, Grace is one of my favorite supporting units. Or anyone else that could perhaps use the magical boost or even just the agility boost. And yes, I get that. And speaking of which, starting tomorrow, all the cards in this game that are MR quality or higher are going to get extra bonuses in terms of perhaps resistances and whatnot of specific elements. I forgot to mention that yesterday, and that's definitely one feature that is going to perhaps change some of the strategic aspects of the game. So, is Bahamut card worth it in itself? And the answer could be yes or it could be no. If you really love light units, as you should, yes, definitely worth it. But if you don't like light units or don't like to concentrate on light units, it is essentially a worthless card in that aspect. So the way I look at it is, If you're gonna try to get Yuna, be prepared. You most likely will need the Bahamut card to make sure that Yuna reaches her ceiling. Whereas the other cards in this game and other units in this game that are supporting type or magical type may not necessarily need to rely on something specific like she is. But perhaps all this stuff is moot point, right? If you love Yuna and if you want Yuna, you may not necessarily need Bahamut, but most people are going to tell you, if you have one, most likely you'll want the other. And for a lot of us out there, we probably don't really necessarily quote-unquote need either. And I think that's the point. If you want something, go for it. If you don't care about it, it doesn't matter. Not all the convincing in the world is going to convince you otherwise. The Yuna situation ultimately boils down to this. Are you really prepared to spend potentially 100,000 busy words on her, right? Unless something drastically happens on global, in which case Yuna is sort of guaranteed. For example, if she's guaranteed in the mock shop, say you spend 40,000 busy words and you get her, then there's really nothing to think about. What if the Bahamut card is going to be one of those situations where you're guaranteed to get him? Well, I'm here to tell you that neither happened on Japan. So chances are, if we're modeling everything that's occurring in Japan for the 1-year anniversary celebration, most likely you're not going to see that happening. So what does that mean? I can say you probably have somewhere around 30,000 to 100,000 busy words saved just for this special occasion. I just want to say that it is still gambling at its worst. 2%, 5%, 10%, it doesn't make any difference. RNG is RNG. And oh my goodness, if we're going to start still thinking about the whole grouping situation or grouping theory, it's a possibility you may never get her at all, right? On top of it, she is a limited time unit. And even though we're given 6 weeks, the chances of you finishing her off as potentially a free-to-play player or even a light spender might be a little rough. 1,000 shards for a unit is still 1,000 shards. No matter how easy of access we can have now, especially with the barrack situation, is still 1,000 shards. Is she going to be viable at level 99? Of course she is. Are you going to be able to get her to level 120? Of course you will. It ultimately boils down to how much you're willing to invest in this situation. One of the biggest flaws I notice about watching Yuna videos is the fact that she does have the AI not on her side. She loves to heal. She loves to prioritize raising. She loves to prioritize buffing. Therefore, she tends to, generally speaking, avoid going on the offensive, much like Ayaka. However, with the on and off toggling ability, you can actually change that. But then you sort of take away what she is meant to do. Be the best healer, be the best supporting in the game. Now, the way I look at it is, to summarize this video, I want you guys to understand. I'm not here to tell you if she's worth it to summon, worthy of saving, or any of that stuff. Every single influencer is going to make a video on this topic. Should you save or should you summon? Or should you save or should you save? Or should you save or should you summon? Or should you summon or should you avoid? Whatever the way people are going to avoid it, word it, it's going to be the same, right? They're going to give you their opinion on it and they're going to give you their take on it. This is my spin on it. I always said the same thing. No matter what facts I actually give you in terms of stats or opinions of whether or not I think the unit is great or impactful on your account, ultimately make the decision on your own right. Make the decision that makes the most sense for you. If you can afford her, if you enjoy playing with her, if you love healing units, if you love light units, then go for it. If you don't have any of those checked in your boxes, then why are you even care, right? Doesn't make any difference. But all I can say is, if you are gonna go after her, I wish you the luck. I wish every single person who wants her gets her very quickly so they can start working on her, build her, and have, end of the day, a lot of fun playing this game. Because a happy community means happy influencers. And happy influencers means happy community. And happy influencers and community means happy company. Therefore, we can go back full circle. Happy influencers, happy community again if the company's happy. Alright, I think that's all the time for this video. But you know that by this point, we're going to go and summon. Because you guys made it this far. And it's once again time to reward you. So let's see what we get. Oh man, on the eve, on the literal eve of one of the most exciting celebrations of this game to date, I'm a little nervous, man. I'm a little nervous because I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet, right? There's a lot of talks about collaboration. By the way, there's a chance of happening either on Wednesday or Thursday. I might do another collaboration video with some of the other content creators. So potentially stay tuned for that. Looks like we may be getting someone new, but at this point, it doesn't really make any difference. Because if I get someone new, most likely I'm not going to build them. But there's only 2 units, huh? Garble and Sakura. And to be honest, I don't mind either or. Actually, if I get Sakura, maybe that'll change my mind about Yuna, right? Here we go. Okay, Victoria Shards. Alright, I want to thank everybody for spending your most valuable resource with me today. And I want to thank everybody for the long-term support you guys have on this channel. And I want to thank everybody for supporting me in my dream of being someone over the internet. I'll see you first thing in the morning on perhaps the most happiest Wednesday to date on War of Divisions. Until then, take care of yourself and all your loved ones. Nashtaters out of here. Have a good one.